What's up guys, Doomweek here. Welcome back to another video here on the channel. As always, before we continue, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the video. As you can probably imagine by the title and this little fancy graphic we have here for you, we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. So I haven't really had much of a chance to look at the spoiler over the past couple of weeks as cards have been getting previewed and you know, more cards have been entering the fray, and I wanted to sort of just take a good solid, you know, couple hours and really dive deep onto the spoiler. And I've had a lot of people on the live stream ask me what I believe are, what I think is the best card from the set for Modern. So I figured instead of giving you one, I'll give you 10. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to be going over what I believe to be the 10 best cards from Innistrad Midnight Hunt for the Modern format. I actually didn't realize that there was this many cards when I was actually going through. Usually when a new set comes out for the Modern format, there's usually like one, maybe two, maybe three cards that like even sniff the realm of playability in Modern, just because Modern obviously is such a wide card pool. It's really hard to find something that can get into the Modern format, but there was actually a decent amount of stuff that I was interested in. So let's get in and see what cracked the top 10. So coming in at number 10, we have Sun Gold Sentinel. So for those of you who don't know, you can see it on the screen. It's a 2-mana 3/2. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to one target card from a graveyard. It's a human. That is the most important part about this card. And then it has a new ability called Coven, which is a new ability from the new set, Innistrad Midnight Hunt. And the Coven ability is something that you can activate when you have creatures, you control have, you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, at least 3. So basically, if you have a 1-power creature, a 2-power creature, and a 3-power creature, you can activate this thing. And then the Coven ability is pay 2 mana, you can choose a color. You can give it hexproof from that color until end of turn, and it also can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. And you can activate the ability only if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers. You know, I think that 2 mana for a 3/2, as far as Modern is concerned, you know, it's not the most playable, but if you look at what the Humans deck is doing, it just wants slightly more aggressively slanted creatures, and this kind of offers you that. I like it because it's something that you can do with some leftover mana, which I think the Humans deck traditionally doesn't have a ton of. Like, it does have some Horizon Canopies and things like that, but this is also some graveyard hate too, in a format where that's defined by Dragon's Rage Channeler and, you know, Renin 6 and Tarmogoyf, and there's a lot of, in Murktide region, there's a lot of cards that require people to use the graveyard. And even though this isn't the flashiest card, what it does, like, imagine a scenario you're playing against a blue-red deck, and you vow this thing in on 2, and you exile, like, on their end step, you vow on 2. You vow this thing, exile a card from the graveyard. You probably have 2 mana up. Yeah, I mean, you could have 2 mana, but if you do have 2 mana up, they really can't kill this thing because you can just protect it. And you get some, and it's also when it enters the battlefield or attacks, so you can, you know, vial it in, exile something, protect it, untap, attack, exile something else. So, I don't know, I just think you get some good value, and it's slightly aggressively slanted, and I think this fits kind of right into the Humans deck. Coming in at number 9, we have Outland Liberator. So this is a 2-mana 2/2. You can pay 1, sacrifice it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Very similar to a card that I'm sure many of you have seen before, Qasali Pridemage. And then it has Daybound, which is the new werewolf ability, which is, you know, if a player casts no spells, becomes night, and then it flips back and forth depending on no spells versus a player casting 2 spells. Then it flips into a 3/3, has 1, sacrifice it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So a lot of these werewolves that I've been noticing have kind of the same text on the front and the back. And then it has the other ability, whenever it attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. Now, this is a card that I don't think is going to make a ton of waves, but I just like it as a really nice upgrade to Qasali Pridemage. I think it's just I'm not going to say strictly better because I don't like to use that term very often, but it seems like it is a significant upgrade to Quzali Pridemage. On top of the fact that once this thing flips, you could just kind of get to go ham. You get to just, whenever you get it in every combat step. So, you know, for people who wanted the Quzali Pridemage ability, if you wanted that type of effect, you know, this just seems like a much better version that also has some really nice upside of just flipping into a 3/3 and just kind of shotgun and mow down all their stuff. So, you know, if you're into that sort of effect, I think this is a pretty nice upgrade. Again, not something that I think is going to make a ton of splash in Modern, but just nice to have access to, and I think a pretty good upgrade to a card that already saw some amount of marginal play. And coming in at number 8, we have the new Zombie Lord, blue-black 2/3 blade-stitched scab. So blue-black 2/3 creature, zombie soldier, other zombies you control get +1/+0. Now, I'm putting this here just because I think this is very close to what is, you know, drawing the line of playable in Modern. It is a 2-mana Lord. It's a 2/3, which sometimes is relatively important versus a 2/2 because it doesn't die to a non-Delirium Unholy Heat. I mean, you and I both know that your opponent always has Delirium, but there are going to be some situations where maybe it's a little bit more awkward or difficult for them to kill this thing. And I think there's a decent push in the zombie tribe, which maybe we'll see a little bit more of in this top 10. But, you know, I just think that 2-mana lords are kind of hard to come by. If you look at all the other lords that are available to the zombie tribe in Modern, it's Cemetery Reaper, Diregraph Captain, Lord of the Undead. Like, these are all 3-mana lords. And I think whenever you see a card that is a 2-mana creature that pumps your creatures of a certain type, you kind of have to take a look at it. Even though, you know, obviously not pumping toughness is a big downside, but shaving a mana entirely off of the card is, I think, well worth the trade-off of not getting the toughness bonus, because most of your zombies, if you're playing a zombie tribal deck, the joke is that you're playing Can't Block Tribal, so why do you care that much about having additional toughness? Because your stuff just comes back anyways. But yeah, I think this card is, if there is a good zombie deck, this will certainly be a part of it. And I think that, you know, I think there's a good amount of the pieces that are coming together, especially, you know, in the new set. Again, we'll see a little bit more in this top 10. But yeah, this is going to be my number 8 choice, Blade Stitch Scab. Really hyped about zombies in the new set. And coming in at number 7, we have Intrepid Adversary. So this is another humans card. So let's go over the text here. This is a lot. 2 mana for a 3/1 lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 and a white any number of times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, put them any Valor counters on Intrepid Adversary. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each Valor counter on Intrepid Adversary. I'm not a huge fan of the adversary cycle for Modern, specifically because a lot of them are very mana intensive, and Modern is at a point where mana efficiency is key, right? That being said, I think this one is just on the line of playable. I think maybe I should have swapped Adversary and Blade Stitch Cab, now kind of thinking about this afterwards. They're fairly close, but I think this one might be a little bit weaker than Blade Stitch Scab, especially in the decks that it's good in. But, you know, another humans payoff, and I think that if you have some mana left over, some mana lying around, it is kind of, you know, 4 mana for a 3/1 that pumps your team. Again, 4 mana lords are not the best, but you get a 3/1 lifelink out of the deal. It's good when you're flooding. And the body by the thing I like about this card is the body by itself is not that bad. 2 mana for a 3/1 with lifelink can help you race a little bit. So that's kind of, yeah, I think the adversary cycle might be the most overhyped cycle within the entire set, because I think a lot of people are thinking only in the lens of standard. Maybe there's some ones in there that are okay in standard, but for Modern specifically, you just don't have that kind of time right now. So for me, I think this is going to be number 7, potentially number 8. You might want to swap that with the Scab. And coming in at number 6, we have one of my favorite cards in the set. For those of you who followed the channel a little bit, know my obsession and love for the Asmo decks, Willowgeist. So we have 1 green for a 1/1 trample. You know, Charging Badger, not the best. Alright, Charging Badger is the one that... What's the one that had trample? I can't remember. Anyways, whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard. I'll say that again. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, you gain life equal to its power. So that text, whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, think Cookbook, Daredevil. Each iteration of the Cookbook, Daredevil gets you a counter. Think Wrenn and 6 getting back a fetch land. Think Delve. Think Cookbook Sack gets something back. There's so many things that trigger this, and I mean, I think personally I am most excited to try adding green-black food with Cookbook plus Daredevil, because it's one of the only ways to get multiple counters on it without paying mana. Like if you, for example, if you delve your entire graveyard away, you only get 1 counter, because it says whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard. So for each instance of that, you get 1 counter. So if you Hooting Mandrills away 5 cards, you only get 1 counter. But the Daredevil Cookbook stuff is a separate iteration of that each time. So for every cookbook, it's an additional +1/+1 counter on this thing. So that's why this thing can get out of hand really quickly if you have Cookbook plus Daredevil. So I'm excited to try that. Outside of Cookbook, Daredevil, not the biggest fan of this card, but given my love for Asmo, I had to put it on the list, coming in at number 6. And we're getting into the juicy stuff. We're into the top 5 modern cards for Innistrad Midnight Hunt. Cathartic Pyre is number 5. Let's read it off. 2 mana, instant. Choose 1. Deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. So, not the flashiest card, but the reason I love this card so much is its utility. You know, you have a card like Cathartic Reunion and what's the new red-white one? Thrilling Discovery. And sometimes if your opponent has like a piece of graveyard hate, I guess this doesn't kill all the graveyard hate, but I just like the ability to have different uses of your cards. You know, that is something that you pay a lot for in the modern format. Look at how playable a Braid is. You know, a Braid isn't necessarily the most flashiest or efficient card. The reason that people play a Braid is because it has so much utility. And the fact that you have now a sort of discard draw outlet that also has the ability to kill creatures or planeswalkers, that's huge. You know, we haven't seen a card like this before. So I don't think it's the flashiest card in the set, and I'm not exactly sure what decks it would go into, but if a deck wants discard 2, draw 2, it will certainly want this card. And I think that utility and that sort of, what's the word that I'm looking for? Versatility. That utility and versatility lets it crack into the top 5 for me. And coming in at number 4, again, we're in the top 5. We have Rite of Harmony. So this is a green-white instant. Whenever a creature or enchantment enters the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card, flashback 2 green-white. The flashback on this is the most important part. So Elves has been a strategy in Modern that people have been trying to play for quite some time. And we already have a card similar to this that's called Beck Call, right? And Beck Call, I believe, I have to look up the text, but I believe it's blue-green. Whenever a creature comes into play this turn, draw a card. I believe that's what it is. The thing about Beck Call is when you're paying 2 mana for that glimpse of... We've obviously, you know, Elves decks in the past have had Glimpse of Nature. But the really nice thing about Rite of Harmony is the flashback cost. So imagine a scenario where you, like, you know, you have a mana creature into a mana creature, and on turn 3 you then play Rite of Harmony. Maybe you don't have enough to fully go off, but we call those value glimpses, right? Where you play a Glimpse of Nature or an effect like this, play a couple of creatures, draw a couple of cards, and that couple of cards that you're up gives you the resources to then kill next turn, because you don't necessarily have all the mana the turn that you're casting the Glimpse, but you're doing a value glimpse, value right, I guess in this case. You're doing a value one to be able to give you the resources when you have access to more mana the following turn. The really nice thing, now, I guess the downside is the flashback is a lot of mana. It's 4 mana. But if you're an elf deck and you're putting a lot of creatures onto the battlefield, more than half of your deck is mana in the elf deck. You have a bunch of Llanowar elves and all this kind of stuff, Heritage Druid, that generate mana. So if you're putting a lot of creatures into play, like let's say, casting right and drawing 3 cards, you already have access to a lot more mana because you're just, all of your stuff is, the more stuff you have in play, the more mana you have. So that's why I like this card a lot. The flashback, but it's just like, it's kind of everything in the one package. You get the value rights the turn that you cast it, and then the next rights is the one that's going to kill them. So for those reasons, we have it here at number 4. And coming in at number 3, we have the zombie payoff that I was alluding to earlier, Champion of the Perished, not Perish. For those of you who know Champion of the Perish, it's the same card except for zombies. I'll read it off just in case. Black 1/1. Whenever that zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of the Perished. Very, very powerful card. Zombie decks, I mean, tribal decks in general just are looking for really solid 1-drops, and this is that, If they're, again, going back to the Blade Stitch Scab earlier, if there is a zombie deck in Modern, this will be a feature of it. I like this card a lot. I mean, Champion of the Parish has had, has seen tons and tons of play over the course of Modern's lifespan in the Humans deck, and I think that there definitely is going to be a zombie deck. And I'm really excited to try a couple of iterations out. Again, once the new set drops out on Magic Online, which is this week, I'm really excited to try a whole slew of decks with all of these cards. So yeah, this is going to be my number 3 pick, Champion of the Perished. And we're cracking into the top 2. This is my number 2 card from Innistrad Midnight Hunt for the Modern format. That is Faithful Mending. This is a card that a lot of people have been asking me about, and I kind of surprised myself that it wasn't at number 1, but you'll see what number 1 is in a second. So blue-white instant, you gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. Really, really powerful effect. Again, I'm not 100% certain whether or not Dredge is going to try and utilize this as additional copies of, Cathartic Reunion and Thrill of Discovery. This does have flashback, so there is some upside there, but starting on turn 2 as opposed to starting on turn 1 with Faithless Looting is a huge downside, and once you're paying 2 mana, you already have Thrilling Discovery and Cathartic Reunion, which draw 3 cards, as opposed to drawing 2. And a lot of time with Discovery and Reunion, you want to discard the cards before you're drawing anyways, because on turn 2, you just want to discard a Dredger and then go nuts from there. But if you cast this on turn 2 and Dredge, you already have a Dredger in your graveyard. But what I like this card a lot in, and I think the deck that I'm most excited to try out with this is Esper Goryo's, or Esper Reanimator. I think it's going to be a Goryo's Jace Obsidian kind of deck, but this is an awesome piece to that deck. It's like, that deck wants to be a control deck, and it wants to hold up all of its mana. It already wants to play Esper colors. The fact that you just get to hold this up, you can cast it on turn 2 if your opponent doesn't play into your counter spells. It's life gain against the aggro decks. Like, this card just seems so perfect for those Esper Reanimator decks, and I'm sure that I'll be having a video with it at some point. But yeah, I'm really excited about this card. It's only number 2, but that's because we'll see what number 1 is in just a second. But anyways, Faithful Mending, my number 2 card for Modern from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. Alright, number 1 might be a little bit of a letdown for some people, but I'll explain. Infernal Grasp, my number 1 card for Modern from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. 1 in a black instant, destroy target creature. That's it. You lose 2 life. There's no clause here. There's no destroy target non-black. There's no destroy target non-artifact. There's no destroy target non-demon, non-dragon. All this nonsense. It's just clean. Destroy target creature. And that is why it is number 1. So there's a lot of... if you look at some of the recent decks over the past couple of weeks, you've seen Doomblades, you've seen Assassin's Trophies, you've seen this, you've seen Ultimate Prices, Go for the Throats. All these kinds of different removal spells, and every single one of them has a downside. This one, no downside. It's just really clean. Now, I know that, it's not the flashiest card, again, as somebody, you'll see a lot of these cards in this list are not necessarily the flashiest, but for what you're paying, 2 mana, destroy literally anything, and lose 2 life might look like a downside, but Death Shadow actually doesn't mind losing 2 life. But yeah, I don't know. I can't really imagine topping this in terms of efficiency and the number of things that it hits. And decks that want this card really want this card because they want to be able to have a 2-mana card that can, you know, kill a DRC or something early and then have no downside to maybe be able to kill a Murktide, be able to kill a Construct token. It literally kills everything. There's nothing there's nothing that gets out of the Infernal Grasp. So for all of those reasons, again, I know I wish there was something a little bit more powerful, but in terms of efficiency and versatility, I have to give it to Infernal Grasp. And that is going to conclude our look at the top 10 modern cards from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. Please let me know in the comment section below, did you enjoy this type of video? I know it's some different content, but I've had a lot of people ask me what I liked from the set, so I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of where I am at, and hopefully on, I think it's Thursday, I'm recording this on Tuesday, so I think Thursday is when we get the new cards on Magic Online. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of content with Innistrad Midnight Hunt coming up soon. So again, let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the video. Let me know what your best card is for Modern for Modern from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. With that, take it easy. I will see you in the next one.